Wisconsin, absolutely not. Northwestern, absolutely not. Ohio State, nope. Indiana. So who in the Big Ten is, like, not forget college football, who in the Big Ten can you point to and say Michigan is in a better place now and moving forward because of Jim Harbaugh? And I think there's two teams, Illinois and Rutgers.
Jeez.
That says a lot. Keep in mind, Dan spent a dozen years playing quarterback in the league. Harbaugh spent 14, and clearly I think Dan is saying that Jim would be better off back in the National Football League. Great, strong stuff. We'll see Dan on Get Up later this morning with Greeny and Company on ESPN. Dan, thank you very much.
All right, Danny.
Appreciate you guys.
You got it. So let me give you a little context here on what's next for Michigan. They're playing at Rutgers. Jay, obviously the gambling guy, knows. Right now, Rutgers is only an 8-point underdog, right?
What?
They're only an 8-point underdog.
What was the last?
They're playing at Rutgers. This says more about Michigan
no fans?
than anything. Limited fans, barely anything there. Barely anything. Keep this in mind. In 2016, and I know it's a matter of just 4 years of recruiting cycle, but Harbaugh was there in 2016. Think about this for a second. In 2016, Michigan defeated Rutgers. This is not a joke. 78-0.
78-0. I remember
78-0 in 2016.
You look upset right now.
Well, it's expected. It's expected.
You look real mad, nostrils flaring.
4 years later, these teams are playing. Rutgers has basically been the same
level.
team, right? And now it's an 8-point game. 4 years ago, it was a 78-point win, and now they're an 8-point underdog.
You know what's so crazy about the Michigan, Rutgers, New Jersey thing? Is Michigan's has come into New Jersey and just grab a bunch of players to go back to Ann Arbor and play. I think that's over with now, though.
Rashawn Gary, Jabril Peppers are two guys that certainly seem to come to mind. So what do you think? Essentially, Orlovsky's saying, look, I mean, he's done.
But I've been saying this since the beginning of the season, and you guys could back me up on this. He belongs in the National Football League. And when you deal in the college football world, in the college circle, you have to recruit a certain way. Mm-hmm. And you can't play games when you recruit. He's a major game player with people's families and their kids when he's recruiting. So that word gets out across the country. Why guys go there and then they have such horrible experiences. If you look at the players that have signed with Michigan since Harbaugh's been there and decided to leave because of Harbaugh.
Lengthy list.
The list is so long. Whether they left early to go to the pros because they were just tired of him, or they left to transfer to go to other schools because they were tired of him. If you look at his coaches, especially on the offensive, defensive side, they flip-flop every year. I mean, it's like he has a new staff, it feels like, every single year because he wears them out.
And both coordinators are under a tremendous amount of heat. Josh Gaddis, they're not moving the ball on offense. That was supposed to be a young, hot hire. And Don Brown, I don't want to get too geeky here, Key. Don Brown, you know, because you follow college football, one of the most acclied defensive coordinators in recent college football history.
He's a really good defensive coordinator when he plays man-to-man, but they don't have any man-to-man guys. He's a man-to-man, in-your-face, every single down defensive coordinator. But they don't have those guys. Those David Longs are now in the National Football League. Rashawn Gary is gone, and they haven't been able to replace those guys. Jabril Peppers is gone. He plays for the Giants now.
And you know what? We're seeing something that happens on a professional level, that happens sometimes at the collegiate level, even though it's not as often that it happens in the pros. But look, you may not have the talent, Key. A lot of people may have left, but you can still see when players actually want to play for a coach.
Absolutely.
Like, there's something about, we may have the talent, but we're still going to have the dog in the fight. We're still going to fight. There's no dog in that fight anymore.
You know,
that's gone.
Shea Patterson transferred from Ole Miss a couple years ago and was supposed to, thrive under Jim Harbaugh in that system. And Nothing. Zero. Nothing. Didn't turn out to. So think about it. I recruited all these guys, McCaffrey and you name it, a whole bunch of different quarterbacks that have come to Michigan, and then all of a sudden Shea Patterson becomes available. You basically kick them to the side, and you start Shea Patterson in front of him when you promised them everything when you recruited them. That's the issues that you get with Jim Harbaugh.
Jake Rudock, John O'Korn, Shea Patterson, Joe Milton, Dylan McCaffrey, you mentioned. The brother of Christian McCaffrey. Those are just not the type of quarterbacks you expect to see from a guy that played the quarterback position. Quickly, can I just mention to Jay's point? Jay, listen to this quote when you were talking about the dog in the fight and do they really want to be there. After the game, Saturday, Harbaugh, quote, The players who have pride in their own personal performance and who want to fight like hell for Michigan. That's essentially saying what he's trying to find. Are there any guys on the roster that can encapsulate that phrase?
Well, nobody wants to fight for Michigan because nobody wants to fight for him. And right now he is Michigan. That's the way it works out, unfortunately.
Like I said, they learn a lot about you, man, in the college football circles. It's huge. And when that buzz starts going around about how you recruit and how you deal with players, here's a true story. This isn't fake. There's a kid named Deontay Burnett who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles now and who went to USC, a receiver. Mm-hmm. He decommitted from Washington State, right, and committed to Michigan, sight unseen. Got on the plane, went to Michigan, got there, was with Harbaugh and everything, A student, like 4.0, just everything. He can get any school in America that he wants to get into.
Michigan, great school.
He decommitted from Washington State, goes to Michigan. Harbaugh sees him, gets back on the plane, back to Los Angeles.
Okay.
Now, mind you, decommitted from Washington State.
Right.
Then all of a sudden he gets to L.A., Harbaugh tells him, we can't get you in the school here in Michigan academically. Everybody was like, what do you mean you can't get? He get in any school in the country academically. He just decided he wanted to go with another receiver instead of telling the kid who now decommitted from a school and he's sitting in L.A. with no scholarship. But then late T. Martin came in and offered him a scholarship to USC late. He was stuck on the streets because he decommitted from a school and committed to another school, and Jim Harbaugh wasn't man enough to tell him, hey, we're going to go with another receiver. Instead, he tells the kid he can't get into school.
And don't think that's not being passed around on the recruiting trail in Southern California.
And that's true. I didn't make that up.
No doubt about it. That stuff doesn't stay secret. People are talking about that, and it's cost him some recruits. Wisconsin was more driven on Saturday night against Michigan. That's pretty clear. If you watched, just the first half, it was pretty much over at that point.
First quarter.
Yeah, that's fair too.
Yeah, I
more
can't
driven,
watch that football.
Brought to you by Goodyear, helping you discover the road ahead. Goodyear, more driven. We'll talk more about Harbaugh with Paul Feinbaum, his biggest critic, coming up here in